Kenya Revenue Authority, the taxman basically, in the country is rolling out an interesting AI tool.
Which is basically supposed to silently monitor taxpayer activity.
I think it's the right tool, but I think it's the wrong problem. One of the biggest fears I have is today it's, let's say, quote unquote, we're trying to capture tax cheats. Guys who are like they're under declaring consistently.
Yeah.
But tomorrow this could become a very strong political surveillance tool.
Before we get into the show, can you tell people to subscribe?
Oh yeah, guys. So it's at this point that we're about to cross over 1K of the 100,000 of you that we are supposed to deliver to our overlord here before the end of the year. So please hit subscribe, hit like, engage in the comments. I like all the edgy comments, in fact, more than other people. But we love all the feedback, and thank you for really just being with us to this point. Your support means everything to us.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Admin Access Podcast. Your best pseudo admin here, Alice.
Pseudo, guest admin. Let's make things very clear.
Guest admin, guys. This ship is sailing because we have a team behind the greatness that you see, and the team in question is the MyTech Story Africa team. So.
Yeah. So basically, guys, what happened is Evans was booted overnight, and
we had to do
our boss decided she has to come in and host this show.
Because the show must go on.
So it is with a gun on my head that I introduce you guys to Alice, and many of you guys might know her from her show on MTS. But she's not here to interview anyone. She's here to,
I'm here to now speak like one of you guys. In the comments, we have such a strong community, and you guys are very hard on to giving feedback. So be nice. Nimesema tu saa hii.
Don't be nice.
Be nice.
We're
here to give you some really good in-depth details on topics that I know you guys
go at it, guys.
Can you?
Yeah. Okay. Welcome, Alice. Welcome.
You guys can let us know in the comments who your best pseudo admin is after this episode. Between me, Dominic, and Evans, who we've had to boot out for this episode.
There is no wrong answer, except for Alice. Otherwise, let's get the show on the road.
Let's get the show on the road.
It's actually catch us up.
Before we even catch up, I think you yourself, you've been up and about traveling the world, democratizing fintech.
Hey.
Well, Dominic has
more like looking for bread.
Every creature does what it must to survive.
To be honest,
for bread.
But I was down in SA for a better part of the last 2 weeks, and forgive us for the inconsistency in missing, being a bit late with this episode. However, it was very insightful, very interesting. Every time I've gone down there, it's almost always shocking. It's like I feel like SA is such a bubble compared to many other African states. Many other African states really run the same way, have very popular, from my perspective, because I usually approach a market from a fintech perspective and payments and things like that. So SA is very different from, actually SA, Egypt maybe, are very different from the rest of the continent. And so trying to get into the market, trying to learn and to appreciate like the systems that are there, the people that are there, and looking for partnerships and business there, it's been a very interesting 2 weeks. And
if you were to share one main insight from your trip in terms of payments, fintech, and progression down there, what would it be?
I'd say in terms of payments, fintech, in many ways they're ahead as much as they are backwards, which is the most interesting thing. So let me give you some context. Like there's this thing called OTT vouchers, which is basically like South Africa's equivalent to something like M-Pesa. People go to spaza shops and then they buy like a voucher, and then that voucher can be redeemed in like e-com sites and things like that. Because still a very humongous percentage of the population is unbanked, and cards and payment systems that are bank orchestrated are literally the most dominant payment pathways. So to see innovations like OTT vouchers and coming up as new payment methods is very interesting to observe in a market where card penetration is like very, very deep and very, very incumbent in the space. So still like getting to learn and to appreciate the nuances of that particular market in that particular context was one of those things that I was like, wow, it still goes to the point of how deeply fragmented payments systems are, especially for cross-border payments on the continent, and getting into that market and appreciating the nuances of all their payment methods and their different alternative payment methods was something to bring back home and be like, okay, so where am I really making the biggest bets? And as you know me, I'm a big stablecoin guy, so anything crypto and something that really tries to go over the traditional rails is something that I'm very interested in. So I think, I don't know if that's an insight, but I'd say it's one of the big realizations I saw when we're down there.
Nice. I mean, during my time there, and you asked about me before and how I've ended up in admin access. I've been here.
You actually have.
But I do agree with what you're saying in terms of ahead and behind at the same time in regards to payments. But I think there's a lot of synergy on this other side when it comes to media and marketing and just borrowing a lot of concepts from down south. And I think the access between both countries has also become easier. You see a lot of Kenyans going to South Africa and vice versa.
Which is, I mean, it's an interesting thing, hot take, but I don't know if South Africans are really happy about the state of immigration
they're not
into that country.
In general, but we won't
but
get into
but that is politics.
We love you, South Africa.
And we do not want to get into the politics.
Today we'll cheat about around.
We'll dance around it a little bit, but just enough.
Okay, let's get into the episode. Go ahead.
So, Alice, you actually were really interested in this one. So, this is a story about, personally, anything about AI gets me out of bed. I really want to talk about that. But this is a bit interesting because the Kenya Revenue Authority, the taxman basically, in the country, is rolling out an interesting AI tool. And it's to, quote unquote, capture like a larger tax base. And I want you to get deep into it. Explain to us like why this is even important. Because I generally have thoughts when it's government implementing some of these things. But anyway, I will let you make the case and then let's take it on from there. So, yeah.
Today's top story, KRA. Now, there's been unverified reports early this year circulating online claiming that KRA has already actually, not just they're planning on, but they already have switched on an AI system which is called the Intelligence Analysis Tool. IAT. Which is basically supposed to silently monitor taxpayer activity. So, I mean, the panic was immediate. The first thing is that, one, the speculation is that this is already implemented without that announcement being done to Kenyans. But our own Commissioner for Micro and Small Taxpayers, George Obel, he clarified on 13th of March that the rollout has not officially been communicated. However, this is something that they had already announced in November 2025, that they have an ambitious rollout phase starting in 2026.
The two things you said, the whole thing about this thing is to scrape government data from different profiles, right? So we're talking data that's with agencies like CRB. Data that is with financial institutions. And really, the big financial institution in question here in Kenya is probably M-Pesa. Because that's where a lot of informal transaction activity lives, right? And social media profiles to try and build like a taxpayer profile against what you file or what you quote unquote declare. Right? Okay. So this is the whole thing about this IAT business. Okay. And you're saying that it caused a lot of unrest or something on social media.
You didn't hear the unrest?
Guys, I am in a corner of Twitter that I shall not talk about.
Top secret.
But there was supposedly a lot of unrest on Twitter, on X, about this. Why is that the case?
I think the first major point is it's like we're putting an engine on a bicycle.
Okay, engine on a bicycle, we're putting an F1 car in a Kenyan road. I don't know, we can go with this. How do you want us to spend this?
A couple of things, yes, because they're introducing of course it's going to be in the back end, but they're increasing the technology adoption within the system. But if you know historically, and if you yourself have tried to use the ITAX portal, which is what people report their tax returns on, it is the UI UX experience, first of all, is something not to write home about. Second, it is not easy for understanding that consumer education is still yet to penetrate. People still need middlemen to come in
and file
taxes for them.
Okay.
Even if you don't have any taxes to file, you still have to go on the dashboard and report nil. Only 7 million Kenyans are actively paying taxes out of the 22 million registered taxpayers, right?
I think there was one that I saw that was saying every year we have like over 600 billion shilling tax gap. Around $5.something billion.
Exactly. With that data point, there's two sides of this coin. My biggest question is, what is the metric of success that we're using? Because if in 2025, they hit their target, which was 2.5 trillion, roughly speaking.
Okay.
And in 2026, of course, you're looking for how to even exceed your previous success that you have. But if we're looking at it from a perspective that the success metric that they're using is how much tax they're collecting from the common mwananchi versus the efficiency that it is for the actual people, then are we really being successful at the system that is being built?
Argumentative. Because I think you can meet success in two ways. Taxes are just hard, straight, simple, and these tax laws change every year. So filing taxes has never been an easy job. And that's why we'll always need these consultants and the big fours and guys like KPMG and EYs and all those guys to come and figure it out for us and then file it out for us. And then for the normal spaza cyber guys who are making a buck out of like filing on behalf of people. So I don't think that's even their focus. I think their focus is exactly on the back end side of things. They want to make sure that when you come here and say, I'm filing nil, they can see that your Twitter, you're over there, flexing on some new, some new V8 engine, and you've never been like, and you're coming out here filing nil, but you have a new car, but now that's the thing. I have a couple of conflicting thoughts just because of that.
Yeah.
So my first hypothesis was, I think for this week and this mass hysteria that happened on X, the panic was the point. Like I think the most effective tool KRA actually deployed this week is not IIT, but it's that poorly sourced tweet. And I'll explain it why. It's because of something called, have you ever heard of this thing called the Hawthorne effect?
What's the Hawthorne effect?
So the Hawthorne effect is like when people change their behavior when they know that they're being observed. Now we are in tax season in Kenya, like from Jan to around June, July. In fact, this is like a study that used to be done in factories. You change a small thing about like a factory, like lighting, and then the guys are like significantly motivated. And then if you say that, hey, this week I'm observing if these changes that we made improve your productivity, and then you see people are actually more productive because they feel like they're being observed. It's the same thing with the Hawthorne effect. It like when KRA says, oh yeah, but they were rolling out an IIT tool in the back end to build tax profiles for people, it almost drives compliance. Like it's like a compliance campaign in some sort. So I think the biggest gain that they actually did was to dissuade people who are ready to go and file again another year filing nil to actually file something. So that's number one, because for them, that allows them to maximize on their targets, which is basically raising more revenue from Kenyans, right? So that for me was the first main point. Number two, I think even with that tool in mind, I think it's the right tool, but I think it's the wrong problem. And the reason why I'm saying it's the wrong problem is because still 83% of Kenyan employment is informal. So this tool can work well for millennials, for Gen Zs, for guys who are salaried. It can even build a tax profile. So you can maybe squeeze a lot more back out of like salaried people who have like side gigs and they have other businesses, or even salaried consultants and things like that. Maybe you can be able to squeeze in some back there. But rubber meets the road where you can still capture like the segment that addresses the mama mbogas and the common wananchis and the border guys and people who
which
not
mind
necessarily...
you is the majority.
Yes, exactly. So, which is now back to that point. It's like these guys have built a Formula One car in a Kenyan on a Kenyan road that doesn't even exist yet.
My issue is there's a lot of technological progression on one side, which is tax collection, but not on the other side, which is
UX,
for the consumers.
to help the
consumers actually know how to do this. Because again, if majority of our country, which is maybe 60%, you can put the statistics that is accurate there, is in the informal sector. Who is really getting hurt is the middle income category, because in the upper class, the salaried people, which already they already have 20% of their salaries already being taken.
More.
I
Actually,
think
the effective
Kenya
tax
is one of
rate
the,
is like 30%.
Kenya is one of the
It's
most
pretty good.
taxed countries.
Depending on how much you're earning, of course, but
Exactly.
20 to 30 something percent.
And even if you're going to bring out the other countries that do a competitor analysis or just comparative analysis with other countries.
That's some corporate lingo right there. Competitor analysis. There's the personal competitors.
You want to tell me this show is not that deep in terms of terminologies?
Guys, we have 100K by Q4.
I'm trying to catch up.
Q4.
If we're going to look at South Africa as a market, for example, South Africa has SARS, which is, I would say, could be one of the most instructive cases to build against Kenya. So they integrated AI-driven risk profiling models. They auto-assessed 5.8 million taxpayers in 2025, dispersed 10.6 billion rand in refunds in 72 hours. But the biggest issue that we're finding and that I was finding in my research is triggering of false positives and an issue of data privacy as well. Not only are they integrating to these systems to kind of understand your lifestyle and everything, so maybe Instagram isn't even the factor that they're using, but how sure are we that the false positive metric that they're sort of using in KRA is going to be accurate enough to be viable.
To be actionable.
There's no
for them
that
to,
middle interaction with someone to build a case as to why or to justify this indifference in how the numbers are looking. So for example, if you've taxed this amount and then your bank account is saying like 30% extra of the amount that you've filed, then that could be something that is flagged, an inconsistency that is flagged, but could just be a reality of you and your lifestyle. There's countries I think...
I like that. I like that point. I wanted to sit on that a little bit. And if you can allow me, maybe next time I'll come with my tinfoil hat and wear my conspiracy theory hat as we get into this. But that point on the data privacy thing is one that really strikes a chord, especially with my perspective of maybe being very slightly libertarian in terms of like a political view. So one, right now they're not currently, quote unquote, aggregating data from like social media.
Yes.
But they could just as well easily turn that on. Right now they want to do it from, like, let's say, financial institutions and things like that. In the EU, in GDPR, there's this thing called DPIA. Whenever any government is trying to do anything that could potentially get into like data protection laws, they have to do they have to like go through a whole process of doing a data protection impact assessment and get that passed fast before you can even be able to roll out. And me may think about this system as well right now. Like one of the biggest fears I have is today it's, let's say, quote unquote, we're trying to capture tax cheats, guys who are like they're under declaring consistently.
Yeah.
But tomorrow this could become a very strong political surveillance tool. And that's just, it's not dystopian to think that. It's actually very easy to see what happened with previous rollouts of government systems, like the identification cards with things like Huduma. What really was the exercise in all that? We went, we queued up, we tried to get all these digital IDs that were never came to happen.
And hasn't KRA been hacked before?
Like massive.
Even that account was hacked last week.
The idea here now becomes like, hey, and this is maybe beyond the scope of, I don't want to get into politics and anything, but hey, maybe some people need to go and take this fight like where it needs to happen. Because we need to when we bring this fight, we're actually testing the veracity of how deep have these guys actually thought through the implementation of this. Now that it's in the public domain and now that we know about it, we need to probe very deeply. Like, hey, okay, you guys want to see this? Okay, no, I get the goal here, but are you doing it well? Are you doing it thoroughly? What data do you actually have access to that belongs to me? At what point is it data protection infringing?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many
layers
we're jumping over. But it kind of reminds me of this whole, well, it's US based, but it's the fiasco with Claude and the US, Defense Department of War around the use of AI in like now weapon systems and military stuff. It's the same concept here. Maybe no lives are lost, but people's pockets are definitely going to be affected
100%
because of this.
And maybe even beyond, if we even zoom out and look at the reality of the market that this is being implemented in, and the history that KRA has of either being hacked or, collecting data, or just the government institution collecting data for not to what end, like the Huduma numbers. Africa already, Kenya, is already a corrupt country, so to say. So that data privacy thing is very, very crucial. And the realities of this market is that there's a lot of systemic and infrastructure issues that we already have on a...
I actually want to agree with that, but I just want to steelman that exact point. That's actually one of the counter arguments that they're making as to why they need this. To reduce human error and corruption. Like if some of these filing things are more algorithmic, then it reduces the need for you having, because people, this country sometimes can be a banana republic, but we love it still. It's ours. But there are people who can pay their way off of taxes, right? And so a big part of this as well, quote unquote, but how is it actually going to happen? How is that going to happen? How is that going to be captured?
Yeah.
Those are not the questions that need to be really just probed.
I agree. And I think to close this argument out, again, my pushback is on making the experience more efficient for the regular taxpayer. Because if you look at, and again, us answering the question that has not been asked, what is something that is common to most, if not majority of the members of this country, that they have access to a mobile phone? How many people have access to a desktop, which you need to tax your KRA returns? And so if South Africa implemented the SARS Mobi app, if you look even outside, Estonia is liked to use as a metric, or even the UK, the government never asks you for the data because they essentially have built a system where they already have. I think that's very inbuilt and it's pre-filled. And when it comes to the UK, they have HMRC. Again, same concept, connecting system, cross-referencing across 30 data sources. But again, I don't think that this is a favorable solution for the common taxpayer. And again, ITAX was quote unquote unsuccessful because people at the end of the day still don't know how to do their taxes, and we're going to just amplify this issue. Who are we making efficient systems for, and what are the realities of the market that we have, and what's on the ground, and how do we make it efficient?
I think the one of the funniest things is in any country, like the government is like the biggest company in that particular country. When you think about it, how it gets revenue is through tax from its people, right? And loans and whatever and all those things. And then it spends it on so many other things, right? Essentially, it has the biggest ways in which it can get revenue, but the core product that it serves, ITAX, I really question the thoroughness of leadership to actually put good engineers and product people to actually build out ITAX. When you look at all the tooling that we use right now, everything being supercharged with AI, I can literally ask my way into doing things. These days I don't write stuff in Notion. I talk to the AI and then it does notes, it puts it down in a database, or I can transcribe things. Like that kind of innovation is still stuck on KRA. And they will make the counter argument that we cannot change things really quickly because people are used to certain things, but it's not even about people being used to a certain way and a certain UX that they have. It's more like there is just not enough of a culture of improvement and iterating well on ITAX itself. And so because of that, the UX, I mean, you and I, who are, I'd say, reasonably tech people, like reasonably vast tech people, even many engineers still don't know how to file their own taxes. If we can't do it, Mama Nani, sitting somewhere in Nyamira with her stall, is definitely going to go to like some cyber guy to have them file their taxes. So if we even start at that first point where the data that's already going in is wrong or inaccurate, like how are we making a lot of improvements on the back end and not really doing at the first point of contact.
Exactly.
So that's a valid point. I think I can take that to the bank, then that's probably proper feedback.